24th, 2021. And we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP. We're also on 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF in Detroit. So shout out to everybody listening to us on 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF in Detroit also. All right, well, we've been, we're on 6 days a week, so we've been covering the new Biden administration. We've talked about the executive orders. We talked about the inauguration. Go back and listen to our shows this past week. They're podcasted. They're archived at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP. And we have them in audio podcast format also. We're on 9 different podcast platforms. We're on iHeartRadio. So you can listen to 910 AM, the Superstation, live on iHeartRadio. Download the iHeartRadio app. Search for 910 AM, 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. And then also search for the African History Network show, because we have our own page on iHeartRadio. And we have hundreds of shows podcasted there. So on today's show, we're going to deal with the movie One Night in Miami. One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King. We first saw Regina King on the TV show 227. And I've talked about One Night in Miami, I think it was early January, late December, when we got more information about the film. But it is a fictitious account of a one night that 4 iconic African-American figures spent together. And this was right after Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston in the first fight, February 25th, 1964. And Muhammad Ali, who was Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, Jim Brown, great football legend Jim Brown, who then became an actor, and Sam Cooke. Okay, they all spent the night together at a hotel celebrating Cassius Clay's, Muhammad Ali's victory. And they all had a friendship. And the fictitious the movie is a fictionalized account of this meeting, okay, and what transpired. But it gets into a lot of different dynamics dealing with the civil rights movement, dealing with African American men wanting to gain Black power, dynamics between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke, all of this. Okay, so we're going to talk some about that as well. Have you seen it? What'd you think about it? Give us a call, 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. If you saw One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King. So it's a fantastic movie. And, tragically, later that year, okay, December 11th, 1964, Sam Cooke was killed. Okay, we know Sam Cooke was killed. And then the following February 21st, 1965, we know Malcolm X was assassinated. Okay, so just in less than a year, within about a year's time, 2 of those 4 African-American men were no longer with us. All right. And then also this past week, January 22nd, was Sam Cooke's birthday. So we talked about Sam Cooke here as well. Now, we're going to share once again an interview that Sam Cooke did. And I forgot I think this was 64. This interview was from, I think it was 64. This interview was from with Sam Cooke. And something that's interesting is that in the movie, he talked about bombing at the Copacabana in New York. Okay. And in this interview here that we'll share with you also in this interview, Sam Cooke talked about bombing at the Copacabana as well. All right. So we'll talk some about One Night in Miami. And then we know that Hank Aaron passed away. So we talked about Hank Aaron on our show Friday. And we'll share a little bit about Hank Aaron also. Excerpt of an interview with Hank Aaron from 2020. And then earlier in the week, I did this segment dealing with how most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution. I said we'll talk some more about that on our Sunday night show. We're going to do that, talk some more about that today. Most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution, and we saw an example of that with the January 6th insurrection. And the U.S. Constitution is the foundation of law in this country. So if you don't understand the Constitution, there's a good chance you don't understand law and don't understand history as well. All right. But and then this also ties it to a conversation that we had earlier in the week, where I talked about a study that showed that 2/3 of Americans can't name the three branches of government. 2/3 of Americans can't name the three branches of government. And then 1 in 5 Americans can't name one of the three branches of government. So we're dealing with a deficit when it comes to understanding history. So you got people out in the streets fighting over Confederate monuments. We just got rid of a fake president who was a dictator, who wanted to preserve Confederate monuments, who were monuments to the traitors of the Union, which is probably why he wanted to keep them. So all this deals with not understanding history. All this deals with not understanding history. And your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. So when people have a poor understanding of history, poor understanding of law, a lot of times the candidates that they support and the policies that they support reflect this distorted understanding of history, law, and politics. All right, so we'll deal with some more how most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution. Then a story broke Friday. We talked about it here on our show. New York Times broke a story dealing with Donald Trump's attempt once again to hold on to the presidency. And this idiot was going to oust the acting attorney general. He was going to get rid of the acting attorney general, replace him with somebody else in the Department of Justice, and try to pressure Georgia state lawmakers to overturn the results of the Georgia presidential election. To overturn the results, once again, coming down to Georgia, once again, trying to disenfranchise African Americans in Georgia, invalidate our votes. Because I guarantee you, if African Americans turned out to support Trump and he won Georgia, he wouldn't be trying to overturn election results in Georgia. Once again, remember on that 1 hour and 2 minute call that was leaked that Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, his team recorded with Trump. Trump said that Stacey Abrams was corrupt. He has some very negative things to say about Stacey Abrams. Okay, so there's been some updates in this story a little bit, so we'll share that with you also. And once again, this is going to come up in the impeachment trial. Impeachment trial is going to start the week of February 8th. The second impeachment trial of Donald Trump, first president to be impeached twice. Okay, and more information is coming out each day. More and more information. I mean, you know, if I was a Republican, I would say we should. I would have been begging for the impeachment trial to happen like as soon as he was impeached in the House of Representatives. I would have been begging Nancy Pelosi, please come on and transmit the articles so we could take it up. I would be begging Mitch McConnell, go ahead, let's start the trial now, because each day more and more information comes out regarding Trump's attempt to maintain power, and none of it is good for him. More and more information comes out each day. It's not play it. This ain't turning out too good for you. None of this information that's coming out is good on your behalf. It's making it worse for you. It's making it worse for you. Then we see that he's threatening to start a third party. I hope he does. Called the Patriots Party. Really? The Patriots, right? No, you should call it the traitors. But go ahead. I hope you do start a third party. So because anybody that follows you is a dumbass. So I hope you do start a third party so we can clearly identify the dumbasses and the traitors. And then he's putting pressure on the Republican senators who are going to have to vote to convict or acquit him. He's putting pressure on them, threatening to, threatening that he's going to start a third party. He's going to run again in 2024. He's going to run. They're going to be primaried in the next election, things like this. So all this is going on right now. I hope he's not going to run in 2024. I'm telling you right now. He's not going to run in 2024. Why? He's going to have so many lawsuits. He's going to be trying to stay out of prison. If he's not already in prison. He's going to be trying to stay out of prison. His taxes would have been released by then. Okay. The $421 million, I think it is, he owes in loans, and Forbes or Fortune has estimated it could be $1 billion. Those loans are going to come due. So he's not going to run for president because they're going to put him under more scrutiny. No, he's just talking loud and saying nothing right now. He's trying to stay relevant. He's off Twitter. Okay. So he's just talking loud, trying to stay relevant. So we'll talk some about these developments here. In the this is more evidence is coming out each day. Trump plotted to replace acting attorney general in effort to overturn election results. All right. Then there were about 30 executive orders that Joe Biden signed this past week. We broke down those executive orders here on this show. Okay. So go back and watch the broadcast this past Wednesday through Friday. Went through and broke down a lot of those executive orders. There was one at the press conference that Jen Psaki, the new White House press secretary, there was one that she held this past Friday, which would have been the 22nd. Okay. And she talked about this executive order. This executive order, and Associated Press has reported on this, and TheRoot.com picked up this reporting. Biden orders review of domestic violence, of domestic violent extremism threat. Biden orders review of domestic violent extremism threat. President Joe Biden has directed law enforcement and intelligence officials in his administration to study the threat of domestic violent extremism, or what we would largely call white domestic terrorists, in the United States, which is an undertaking being launched weeks after a mob of insurgents loyal to Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol. The announcement Friday, January 22nd, by White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki is a stark acknowledgement of the national security threat that officials see as posed by American extremists motivated to violence by radical ideology. These are mainly white domestic terrorists. The involvement of the National Intelligence Office, created after the September 11, 2001 attacks with a goal of thwarting international terrorism, suggests U.S. authorities are examining how to pivot to a more concerted focus on violence from extremists at home. These are mostly white domestic terrorists, mostly men, just so y'all, in case you're a little confused. All right. So we'll talk about this and some birthday shout outs. Today's the birthday of Kenya Moore, Detroit's own Kenya Moore. Kenya turns, I think it's 51 today. We were both born the same year. We went to high school together. So shout out, happy birthday to Kenya Moore. Let's see. And what was okay. We'll talk about this and more on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. How's everybody doing? All right, stand by, everybody. All right, calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Stand by. We'll be back from break in 2 minutes. How's everybody doing? All right, stand by. All right, we'll be back from break in 2 minutes here. Okay, everybody, share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 on the Superstation WFDF. I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Sunday, January 24th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook on your Facebook page and your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Okay. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I'm sorry, 313-778. I'm looking at a bunch of people texting me, and I'm looking at a bunch of stuff. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. First up, we're going to talk about the movie One Night in Miami. Okay. And I'm trying to think, have I been to Miami? I've been to Florida. I've been to Orlando. I don't think I've been to Miami. I do want to go back to Atlanta, but I haven't gone anywhere because of COVID. All right. So yeah, and I was thinking, no, I haven't been to Miami yet. I've been to Nova Scotia, Canada. There's some black people up in Nova Scotia. That's a whole history going back to the War of 1812. Okay, dealing with Nova Scotia, Canada. All right, but on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, this corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions or a woman's actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. And we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, love, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Okay, so when I talk about, so I got to make sure to say relationships when I talk about love and sex. This is relationships, love, and sex. Okay, I got to make a mental note to talk about, because sometimes I leave out relationships, which is symbolic, but right, but that's a whole nother show. All right, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, to sign up for our email newsletter. Okay, the call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. And also, very briefly, I want to let people know, people have been asking, when is the online course going to start back up that I teach, called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 8-week, 16-hour online course. It's broken up basically 2-hour sessions. It's online. You can watch from around the world. As soon as you register, we have bonus content that you can start watching. And we deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with history leading up to the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, so the class is going to start Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be online at our online school. And as soon as you register, you can watch the bonus content. And we have the information that's archived there also. Okay, so we're going to post the information here. You can register for the online course. And this course is regularly $130. We have it on sale, $80. And you can watch the bonus content. And if you miss any of the online class, it's archived. You can go back and watch it over and over again. Okay, so we'll post that here. We'll post that link here on the thread of the broadcast. Okay, so One Night in Miami. So I heard a lot about this movie. And, you know, as a historian, I am leery of fictionalized movies. Okay, now any movie dealing with history. And this is what I was trying to explain to a lot of the purists who wanted to jump on the movie Harriet. But when other movies about history came out, they weren't crying and screaming and yelling and rolling around on the floor and throwing a temper tantrum and pulling out their weaves or whatever they were doing. So anytime you have a movie that's based upon historical figures, okay, there's parts of the movie that are fictionalized. You have fictitious characters that are created that are composite characters. The composite characters embody usually real actions of real life people, but they just collapse that all into one character. The script is fictionalized. Where did the script come from? Okay, unless you're getting the script that is from the transcript of a court case, or unless you're getting the script that is maybe, say, you're acting out an autobiography word for word, verbatim. Okay, other than that, where does the script come from? The script comes from writers who did research, read numerous books dealing with history, dealing with that time period, dealing with that historical figure, and they're putting the words from history, from various aspects of history. They're putting words into the mouths of various historical characters or characters that are a composite character that represents the thoughts and ideas and actions of people at the time. Okay, so all the quote unquote historical movies, all of them, there's liberties that are taken, creative liberties. All of them have things that are false in there. Okay, so I just find it interesting how people just attack African American movies, okay, but not all these other 100+ white movies dealing with history. All of them have fiction in them. Okay, so with this movie, One Night in Miami, right from the start, they're telling you, look, even though these are historical figures, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, this is a fictionalized meeting. This is a fictionalized meeting. Okay, so I find it interesting the purists didn't come after this movie, you know, like they did the other ones. And the other thing that's important to understand is when a movie says based upon a true story, and let me know if we have any callers, Jalen. If a movie, when you see a movie and it has the trailer and it says based upon the true story, it's important people understand the movie, the story that the movie is based upon may be true. That doesn't mean that the theatrical depiction of the story is true. You understand what I'm saying? The story that the movie is based upon may be true. That does not mean that the theatrical depiction of the story is true, because it's not. This, as I just explained, there are going to be all types of liberties taken, who wrote the script, things like this. So this is what we have to understand. And then if it says inspired by a true story, that means that means it's less truth in that theatrical representation when it says inspired by a true story than a theatrical representation that's based upon a true story. You're dealing with Hollywood, or some people call it Hollyweird. You're dealing with Hollywood. So when we look at this movie here, it came out in 2020, One Night in Miami. It's an American drama film about a fictionalized meeting, but between Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke in a room at the Hampton House in February 1964. Now, there's so much history here. Even though you have a fictitious account, still there's so much history in this, right? Now, the Hampton House, this was a segregated hotel where African Americans stayed. African American owned and operated. It's a segregated hotel, all right? And they stayed, it was Malcolm X's room, because you know Malcolm, he's staying with the brothers and sisters, right? Malcolm X's room number 245. I wrote it down. I looked at it. Okay. Had to zoom in on it. It was room 245. So now what was interesting is like when you watch this, okay. So Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown get to the room, they think it's gonna be some women there, okay? Because Jim Brown wanted some women. You know, Ali did. Ali loved the ladies, okay? And it's like, wait a second, it's just us? It's just us four men here? Because it was Malcolm's room, so Malcolm wasn't gonna have women running around. Malcolm wasn't into that. Okay, so it's a feature film directed by Regina King, who we first saw as on 227 as Brenda Jenkins on 227. She's gone on to be a fantastic actress, now director. She's just brilliant. It's adapted from the screenplay by Kemp Powers, which is Kemp Powers, which is based on his stage play of the same name, One Night in Miami. Now it stars Kingsley Ben Adir as Malcolm X. He does an excellent job as Malcolm X. Eli Gorey as Muhammad Ali, Aldous Hodge as Jim Brown, and Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Sam Cooke. Now, Leslie Odom Jr. was in the movie Harriet, and he portrayed William Steele in the movie Harriet. William Steele was the African-American abolitionist who recorded a lot of the history of the Underground Railroad. Much of what we know about the Underground Railroad came from William Steele, and he was a successful African-American entrepreneur who helped to finance the Underground Railroad as well. Okay, but that's another movie. But we're still dealing with history. But that's Leslie Odom Jr. portrayed William Steele in Harriet, and he portrayed Sam Cooke here. Okay, now I don't know if he's going to end up being like Chadwick Boseman, portraying James Brown and Jackie Robinson and Thurgood Marshall. Okay, those are people with different complexions. But so I don't know. We'll see. All right. Okay. Now, the film premiered at the Venice Film Festival on September 7th, 2020, which was a first for an African-American female director, a first for an African-American female director, Regina King. Now, it was released in limited theaters by Amazon Studios. So it's on Amazon Prime, all right? And it comes included, because I logged on to Amazon Prime. And I have Amazon Prime. I pay them $13.99 each month. I barely watch. I think I may watch Amazon Prime like once every 2 months. I need to start watching it more, get my money's worth, okay? And I logged on, and I thought I had to pay money. I thought it was one of those movies that, you know, you had to pay money to see, even though you have Amazon Prime. It's included in your Amazon Prime membership. All right. So this ain't an endorsement for Amazon Prime. I was just like, oh, okay, I don't have to spend any more money today. So so you can go watch it if you have Amazon Prime. All right. Now, Netflix, on the other hand, because I got to renew my membership to Netflix, because I watch Netflix once a month and I just let that elapse and this stuff. We're going to do later in the week, we're going to talk about the documentary MLK FBI. I have to watch that. We'll talk about that one as well. MLK FBI. So there's some things on Netflix I want to see. So I guess I need to renew my membership to Netflix, I guess. So it was released. This movie was released in limited theaters by Amazon Studios starting on December 25th, 2020, Christmas Day, before being released digitally on Prime Video on January 15th, 2021. Now, reviews have been overwhelmingly positive for this movie, with critics praising director Regina King's direction, the performances, and Kemp Powers' screenplay. So when we look at the plot of this movie, right? So the movie opens in 1963 with Cassius Clay. This is before he becomes known as Muhammad Ali. Cassius Clay fights Henry Cooper at Wembley Stadium in London. Okay. And he's kind of, so I'm a big Ali fan. You see Ali behind me. I mean, damn, come on. Let's keep it 100. I'm a huge Ali fan. The best documentary series, the best, and I've seen basically all the documentaries on Ali. The best documentary on Ali is a 3 DVD set called I think it's Ali. I think it's called The Ultimate Ali, because I have it on DVD, and it's like 6 hours. Okay, it's 6 hours of Ali. All right, and it's a huge documentary. So he fights Henry Cooper in London, and he's clowning around. He gets hit in the jaw and gets knocked down. That's his first knockdown in a professional fight. So he gets up, he wins the fight. Okay, then they cut to 1964. All right, so we see in 64, we see they then go to Sam Cooke performing at the Copacabana in New York City. All right, and Sam Cooke, he bombed. So is Jackie Wilson performing also? Talk about a Detroit connection. You got Jackie Wilson performing. Then it appears somehow Jackie Wilson sabotages the microphone equipment, the audio equipment. I'm not sure what he paid to have the cut off or something like that, but they allude to that. So I'm sorry, that's with Jackie Wilson. That was in Boston. They talk about that later in the movie. But with the Copacabana, he's performing. Sam Cooke is performing to a basically all white audience, and he bombs. He doesn't do well at all. They're really not interested in him. He bombs. Now there's an interview from 1964 where there's an interview from about 1964 where Sam Cooke talks about a number of different things, but he talks about bombing at the Copacabana. Okay, and we're gonna go to that in just a minute here. I want you to hear Sam Cooke himself. All right, and we know that we commemorated Sam Cooke's birthday this past week. He was born January 22nd, 1939. January 22nd, 1939. All right, I just sent you a clip, Jalen. So they show Sam Cooke bombing at the Copacabana. Then they go to Jim Brown. Jim Brown is at his hometown in Georgia, and he's warmly received by an old family friend named Mr. Carlton, who's an old white man who lives on a vast plantation estate. Now, this is on an island in Georgia, okay? And Mr. Carlton praises Jim Brown, but when Mr. Carlton says he has to go inside and move some furniture, Jim Brown, so Mr. Carlton's family is old friends with Jim Brown's family. So Jim Brown says, well, hey, I can help you move it. And he says, now before they say this is, it caught me by surprise. Before they get to this point, Mr. Carlton told Jim Brown that if you need anything, let me know. Our families have been friends for years. If you need anything, just ask. Okay. So Mr. Carlton goes, he gets up to go inside because he has to move some furniture. Jim Brown says, well, hey, I can help you. He said, oh, Jim, he said, I appreciate it, but we don't allow N-words in the house. So I was like, this is what he told him. He said, we don't allow N-words in the house. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoa, okay, after you just said that how long your family and Jim Brown's family have been friends, and if Jim Brown needs anything, you help him, what have you. So you're dealing with these different dynamics in the 60s, and you have these African-American men, these iconic African-American men trying to navigate these dynamics of the civil rights movement, wanting Black power in various ways, wanting Black power. Sam Cooke talks about an economic Black power. Malcolm X is talking about a more overt Black power. And then, you have Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, who's 22. So he was probably the youngest of them. all this taking place and them trying to be, you know, African American men in a society that doesn't really want them to be an African American man. They can go farther because their talents can make white people money. They're allowed to go, you know, a little farther than others. But we know what happened when Muhammad Ali came out as Cassius Clay, okay, and he joins the Nation of Islam. He was already hated by a lot of white people, but then that really caused them to hate him. All right, we know Malcolm X was hated. All right, so you deal with these different dynamics. Okay, if you have a question or comment, you can give us a call 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. We're talking about the film One Night in Miami. One Night in Miami. So we also see the film opens. We see Malcolm X returning home from a meeting, and he nervously discusses his plan to leave the Nation of Islam with his wife Betty Shabazz. Leave the Nation of Islam. He talks about Cassius Clay because he wants to bring Cassius into the nation. So then the movie goes months later to February 25th, 1964, when Muhammad Ali fights Cassius Clay. Okay. Now the picture you see behind me, that's of the second fight. Okay. That's the second fight with Ali. Because the first fight he knocked Ali down. Ali did not Liston down in the first fight. Liston refused to come out for the last round because he just got his behind beaten so much. So that picture behind me, that's from the rematch. All right, that ain't last too long. Ali won that one as well. So the movie fast forwards to February 25th, 1964, and the movie centers around the fight and then that night when they're celebrating and the conversations that they have in the hotel room. So they're all in Miami for Clay's title bout against Liston. And then Clay is going to, you know, Clay talks about, Muhammad Ali talks about announcing to the world that he's going to join the Nation of Islam and things like that. And he's contemplating it, etc. During the fight, we see Jim Brown is ringside as a commentator. We see Malcolm X and Sam Cooke in the crowd also. So Malcolm X invites all three back to his hotel room number 245 at the Hampton, okay, which is a segregated hotel. I want to go to this clip here. I think we have it queued up. This is Sam Cooke from 1964 on interview on Basin Streets, I think it is. I think that's the name of the show, Basin Streets. Okay, let's go to this clip.
Eleanor Harris.
Good news, yeah. Let's do a little capsule version of the Sam Cooke story. How did it all happen?
A little capsule version. Born, my father was a minister. I started singing in the church naturally because I was exposed to gospel singing first life. Came out of school, went with a professional gospel group called the Soul Stirrers. Sang around the country with them for about 5 years. Decided to go on my own. Made a song called You Send Me. It sold about 1.5 million copies for me, luckily enough. What is it, Coco? Bomb? Did you really? That's right. I bombed. I bombed. Coco's a funny name, and unless you know show business, and unless you give it a real approach, you bomb. I didn't make good. That's why I said bomb.
Because there are Copas everywhere. It's the one in New York City you're talking about. That's right. For some reason, I can't explain it. It happens to be the prestige date of all time. If you make it at the Copa, that's it. It's probably the truth.
Why do you think you bombed? Why do I know why I bombed? Because I wasn't ready.
Yeah. I know I bombed too. I had the wrong act. Well, I mean it. I didn't say a word. And the whole act that I did, I was just entertainment, song. Yeah. These guys would certainly give me that real classy stare, you know. Mm-hmm. And one night, right in the middle of the song, guy gave me the words. I had kind of a dramatic place in Autumn Leaves, you know. And I sort of looked over and I said, but Autumn Leaves, it will start to fall. I didn't answer back. I guarantee. The little guy sitting just looking at me like all through the act.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to take me up in the alley.
You know, there are different opinions on what you have just said. Now, a lot of people who prepare acts for people like you and Howard say that you think you're well into it. Now, I've seen the best of them perform, and I know Sammy Davis doesn't say word one until he's sung for about 30 minutes. And it goes for Tony Bennett.
Well, I think it's all in trying to establish a rapport with the audience. If you feel that you're establishing a rapport, it's not necessary to talk. But then sometimes conversation, some people sing better to establish a rapport, some people happen to talk better. Now, I do what comes to my mind. Now, if I feel I'm not establishing a rapport, and if I see there's something I can say in conversation that will help them come to me and me come to them, because it's a mutual thing, then I'll talk.
Sam, what is this song that you're going to do, Darling You Send Me? What is that? Is that the big
thing? I had You Send Me, and right after that I had another song called Sentimental Reasons, and I usually sing these two songs together because they mean so much to me.
You had a big one on Chain Gang, too.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm keeping up with you. Yeah. Sam Cooke's going to sing for us again. Would you like that?
All right, pause it right there, Jalen. Okay. All right, we don't want a copyright infringement ding on us. Okay, so he talked about, in that clip there, that's from 1964, he talked about bombing at the Copacabana in New York City. And in the movie One Night in Miami, Sam Cooke talked about bombing at the Copacabana as well. Okay, so check out that interview on YouTube. Sam Cooke interview at Basin Street Blues. Okay, Basin Street Blues. That's from 1964. All right, now, one of the dynamics was Malcolm X talking about the type of music that Sam Cooke was singing and how it was gospel songs that were made popular, made into secular music, but it wasn't talking about the movement. It wasn't talking about what was going on in America. It pertained to African Americans and the civil rights movement, etc. So many people know about the song "A Change Is Gonna Come." Right? We remember the Malcolm X movie from Spike Lee, 1992, and we know at the end of the movie, Malcolm is driving to the Audubon Ballroom in Washington Heights, New York, and we know that they play that song. Okay, so that's a Sam Cooke song. That song is about the civil rights movement, and in the movie, at the end of the movie, hopefully it's not a spoiler alert, but maybe it is. At the end of the movie, One Night in Miami, Sam Cooke sings that song. Okay, now he didn't write the song after the night in the hotel room. Okay, he wrote the song in January. He wrote the song the month before. On Wikipedia, they have some good information dealing with now I don't use Wikipedia a lot, but there's some good information on Wikipedia. They give some background information on the song "A Change Is Gonna Come." All right. And there's an article from, I think they reference an article from Billboard magazine. But when we look at the background information on the song "A Change Is Gonna Come," Sam Cooke wrote it after he was denied, after he was discriminated against at a whites-only hotel. The song was inspired by various personal events in Sam Cooke's life, most prominently an event in which he and his entourage were turned away from a whites-only motel in Louisiana. Sam Cooke felt compelled to write a song that spoke to his struggle and of those around him, and that pertained to the civil rights movement and African Americans. The song contains the refrain, quote, "It's been a long time coming, but I know change is going to come. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is going to come." Okay, so we see that, and Leslie Odom Jr. does a good job. You know, I don't know if he was singing himself or somebody was lip syncing or whatever, but the whole way the story is put together, One Night in Miami, it's fantastic, and it interweaves history with this fictionalized account of these conversations that they're having. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. We're coming up on a break here. Let's go to Marathon line 1. Marathon, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Detroit, Michigan.
Calling from Detroit, Michigan.
9:10 a.m.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Thanks for holding.
You're missing the whole thing about the Copa story. The reason Sam Cooke bombed, he didn't go home with the girl he brought to the dance. He didn't stick with Darling You Send Me. If he would have sang You Send Me, he would have brought the house down. It's much like my cousin, the late great Bobby Smith of the Spinners, told me. He said, Marathon, if you ever make it, stick with your music. Don't wait for them to cross over to you. Do your music and you'll be okay.
Yeah, he wasn't performing his music. He was performing to an all-white audience. He was performing something drab. I forgot the name of the song he performed, but it wasn't.
Tammy.
Huh?
Tammy. It was theme from Tammy.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't like one of his standards that he performed. It wasn't one of his well-known songs.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it wasn't one of his well-known songs that he performed. But
he didn't go home with the girl. He didn't go home with the girl he brought to the dance. That's what I'm saying.
Right, but when he was actually interviewed, the actual interview I played, he said he bombed because he wasn't ready. That was him. That was actually Sam Cooke. That was. I mean, that could be part of it. But what he said was when he performed at the Copacabana, he wasn't ready. Now he performed. He should have performed something better. You know, one of his more well-known songs. Yeah. But that was him. That was Sam Cooke himself saying he bombed because he wasn't ready when he performed at the Copacabana. Yep. Okay, man.
He should have stuck with what made him famous, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the crowd would have loved that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Marathon. Thanks for calling. All right. Yeah. He should have stuck with what made him famous or something like that. But sometimes when you performing at clubs like that, you may have to perform songs that the owner of the club or what have you tell you to perform also. That's another dynamic there as well. Okay. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. We're talking about the movie One Night in Miami. Now, there was a good article from SmithsonianMag.com, SmithsonianMag.com, and this is the official website of the Smithsonian Institute. And the name of this article is The True History Behind One Night in Miami. The True History Behind One Night in Miami. One Night in Miami, Regina King's directorial debut, dramatizes a 1964 meeting between Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown. All right. We're going to talk about this some on the other side of the break. I know we're coming up on a break here. So let's go back some more to the synopsis. Now, another dynamic in the movie was a conversation between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke about economic power, Black power, different dynamics like this. And Malcolm X confronts Sam Cooke with the recent success of Bob Dylan's "Blowing in the Wind" song, and wonders why a white kid from Minnesota can find an audience for social commentary, but Sam Cooke cannot. But Sam Cooke also talks about how he owns a record company, he owns his masters, and he talks about the Rolling Stones wanting to record a song from his company. I think it was a song Bobby Womack wrote, okay? And he let them record the song, okay? These are covers, okay? This is something that a lot of white artists did, okay? It wasn't just Michael Bolton. This is long before Michael Bolton. They did this to Little Richard, all right? Pat Boone did Tutti Frutti, okay? And it became a bigger hit for Pat Boone probably than it did for Little Richard, and it could get played on radio stations where Little Richard couldn't get his song played on. But you would have a lot of white artists who would record hits that black people made and then become a bigger hit for white audiences, and they could perform all across the country, where a lot of times we were restricted where we could go, where we could perform, which radio stations we could get our songs played on. A lot of the white Southern owned radio stations would not play our music. They called it race music. So the Rolling Stones want to record this song. Sam Cooke lets them record this song. It becomes a bigger hit for the Rolling Stones than it was for Bobby Womack, and it makes more money. But because Bobby Womack was a songwriter, had songwriter credits on the song, he got paid when the Rolling Stones recorded and it went to #1. So Sam Cooke is explaining this economic power, okay? How, you know, I don't have a problem if white people record our music as long as we get paid for it. We own the masters, we have the writing credits, we get paid for it. He's talking about understanding like this business side of the record business and ownership, okay? And how you can make more money letting white people record, you know, songs that you wrote. All right. So it's another dynamic. They have this probably fictionalized conversation. Maybe part of it may have been true. I don't know. But it's a very interesting conversation. Okay, we'll talk about this on the other side of the break. Let's to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. All right, stand by. How's everybody doing? Yeah, it's over now. But Rolling Stones did that. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, if you'd like this type of information, also you all can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN Show, paypal.me /the AHN Show. Then also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. Mo Lukeman, Ann Smile, John Ray. Everybody visit workingwithjohnray.com, workingwithjohnray.com. Hey, John Ray, post your information here. Nguvu Twalibu. Okay. All right, lectures from Dr. Ray Hagens that I posted years ago. Yep. Matthew. All right, stand by. I gotta get ready for this next segment here. What are we doing this next segment? Stand by, everybody. We'll be back in a couple minutes here. Stand by, everybody. All right, we'll be back in just a minute here.
(910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF in Detroit. I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Sunday, January 24th, 2021. And we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. If you'd like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, just click on the yellow donate button. So since we're here 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week, that definitely helps out, helps us keep broadcasting, stay on the air, keep doing the research, pay some of the bills. So we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, and we're still on Sundays. We're doing Sundays for 4 years. We're still on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then starting October 12, 2020, we started doing Monday through Friday. So we're on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time also. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP. And then also on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. All right. My online course, we're going to start teaching that again. The class sessions are going to be Wednesday, starting February 3rd, 2021, 8 p.m. to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history. We deal with what led to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. When we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, we have to understand that historical events don't happen in a vacuum. We know that the year 2019 was the year of return, as many African Americans started reconnecting to Africa and traveling to Ghana and other West African countries. When we discuss the transatlantic slave trade, we have to first understand that African people are the original people of North, Central, and South America, and have been in this land that we call the United States of America at least 51,700 years. And that's what Dr. David M. Hotep deals with in his book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. And you've heard numerous interviews I've done with Dr. David M. Hotep. This doesn't mean the transatlantic slave trade did not happen. It just means you have to understand thousands of years of history that lead up to the transatlantic slave trade starting in 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. Now, we can't start studying our history in slavery. We have to understand the history chronologically and deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who entered into the Iberian Peninsula, today known as Spain and Portugal, from North Africa in 711 AD. Okay, so we deal with all this. We deal with ancient Kemet, we deal with the Moors, we deal with a chronology of events leading up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. All right, so we posted a link here. Also, you can register at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It may still show the information from when we did the class in October 2019. It's fine. Just go ahead and register for it. We'll enroll you in the new class also. It's going to start Wednesday, February 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it'll be each Wednesday for eight weeks, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the sessions are archived. You can go back and watch it over and over again. And I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, audio clip. We have video clips, book references, article references, everything. So it's a visual class, and you can ask questions during the class. Also, we have a virtual chat. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We'll talk a little bit more about One Night in Miami, then we're going to hit some of these other topics here quickly also. All right. So I want to go to this article here from Smithsonian Institute, okay, Smithsonian.com. And it deals with One Night in Miami, okay? And let me post this information here again also. It deals with One Night in Miami, and it tries to separate fact from fiction. Now, that's one of the challenges when you deal with movies that deal with when you have historical figures and trying to separate fact from fiction. That's one of the drawbacks. I like documentaries better, but I do understand the impact that movies can have also, and they do have their purpose. All right, now, so the question is asked, is One Night in Miami based on a true story? So in short, yes, but with extensive dramatic license, particularly in terms of the characters' conversations. Now, Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown really were friends. And they did spend the night of February 25th, 1964 together in Miami. Fragments of the story are scattered across various accounts. But as Kemp Powers, who also penned the film script, told the Miami Herald in 2018, he had trouble tracking down, quote, more than perfunctory information about about what actually took place. Okay, more than perfunctory information about what actually took place. Now, about what actually took place. Now, despite this challenge, Kemp Powers found himself intrigued by the idea of four 1960s icons gathering in the same room at such a pivotal point in history. Quote, it was like discovering the Black Avengers, he said to Deadline.com last year. And it did, man, and it did seem like that. These were like iconic men, so it seemed like they were like the Fantastic Four or the Avengers or something like that. Now, at this point in time, 1964, this is February 25th, 1964. Malcolm is suspended by the Nation of Islam, okay, because of the after the assassination of JFK, November 22nd, 1963, and comments he made or how they were interpreted, what have you. There's a 90-day suspension. He has not officially separated from the Nation of Islam yet. That's going to take place March 8th, 1964. So that's going to take place about 2 weeks after this night, after the Cassius Clay Sonny Liston fight. He hasn't gone to Mecca yet. That's going to be late April 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 has not been signed into law yet. That's not going to be until July. That's not going to be till July 1964. All right. And we know that August 28th, 1963, you had the March on Washington. So you hear that reference. You hear all these different historical references in the film as well. Okay, so Kemp Powers, who wrote the script, Kemp Powers turned the night's event into a play, drawing on historical research to convey an accurate sense of the men's character and views without deifying or oversimplifying them. Now, the result is Director Regina King tells the New York Times is a quote unquote love letter to black men, that allows its lionized subjects to be layered. There are textures to them. There are layers to them. They are vulnerable. They are strong. They are providers. They are sometimes putting on a mask. They are not unbreakable. They are flawed. And that was one of the things that they showed. They showed you because not LL Cool J. Ladies love Cool J. Ladies love Ali. Okay, Cassius Clay, he was a ladies' man even after he goes into the Nation of Islam. He's still a ladies' man. Okay, so we see those dynamics here. We see the dynamics with Jim Brown and loving women. You see these powerful, iconic African American figures, but then you also see their flaws. All right, and one of the big mistakes is we try to put people on pedestals and think people are perfect, and they're not. They're human beings. They have their frailties, they have insecurities, etc. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay. Yeah, Malcolm talked about chickens coming home to roost when Kennedy was assassinated. All right. And one of the things they talk about, Muhammad Ali talks about how his mother cried when Kennedy was assassinated. I think Sam Cooke said the same thing. His mother cried, because there was a lot of African Americans who cried when JFK, was assassinated. All right. We didn't think he was perfect, but we thought that he could be pushed farther than a lot of other white men. Okay. And we know that it's going to be JFK who was one of the first ones to initially talk about affirmative action also. But we saw him as somebody who wasn't perfect, but somebody who can be pushed farther than a lot of other white men who would be president or previous presidents. Okay, so I want to go back to this article here from Smithsonian Mag. Okay, so in One Night in Miami's retelling, the four friends emerged from their night of discourse with a renewed sense of purpose, each ready to take the next step in the fight against racial injustice. Each ready to take the next step in their fight against racial injustice. For Sam Cooke, this translates to recording the hauntingly hopeful a change is going to come. Now, keep in mind, Sam Cooke actually, when you actually study it, Sam Cooke actually recorded a change is going to come the month before this meeting took place. He recorded in January 1964. It had not been released yet, however. Okay, it had not been released yet. For Cassius Clay, this meant asserting his differences from the athletes who preceded him, a declaration Damian Thomas, a sports curator at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, summarizes as, quote, "I'm free to be who I want to be. I'm joining the Nation of Islam. I don't support integration," end quote. Okay, so Cassius Clay becomes Muhammad Ali. They show at the end, they show the name being bestowed upon him by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And there's a scene, Sam Cooke and Muhammad Ali are in a car. Okay, they leave. There's an argument between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke leaves to go to the store. Ali goes after him. And they talk about how black people want black power. Black people want power. We want black power. Okay. And this is before the Black Power movement starts. All right. So the Black Power movement basically starts in 1966. It doesn't start with the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, founded in October 1966 by Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton. It goes back to earlier in '66, and most people really mark it with the March Against Fear in Mississippi. Okay, June 1966. Okay, the March Against Fear. James Meredith is on this march. He gets shot. Civil rights leaders come to finish the march. Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, Dr. King, things like this, and they're arrested. They come out of jail, and Kwame Ture is on the microphone. He talks about how we want black power, and really unleashes this ideology of black power to the world. Now he's the chairman of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. SNCC comes out of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, which was co-founded in 1957 by Dr. King and Ella Baker. And the black power ideology and really that movement is going to come out of SNCC. Before he unleashes it to the world, that was June 28th, 1966, if I remember correctly. Before he unleashes it to the world, they were priming people for it on the ground. Mukasa Dada, Willie Ricks was one of the ones who was a member of SNCC. and I've been interviewed him years ago. He was one of the ones who helped to prime people with the ideology of Black Power, and that ideology was permeating throughout SNCC. And you had the older faction, well, not older because they were all young. You had the faction of SNCC that was more following Dr. King, and it was more, some of them may have been what we would call integrationists. Okay. You had John Lewis, you had Diane Nash, things like this, who weren't with Black Power. You had others who were, like Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, Willie Ricks, etc. So when John Lewis loses the chairmanship in '66 to Kwame Ture, you're going to have a lot of them who leave, like John Lewis, who leave. And John Lewis talks about this in the Eyes on the Prize, but you have to go to the second Eyes on the Prize series that dealt with from about 65 through the 1980s. There's a second Eyes on the Prize series that interviews John Lewis, that interviews Kwame Ture, that gets deep into this. Okay. The first Eyes on the Prize series, and I have the box set on DVD of the first Eyes on the Prize series, that deals with from 55, starting with the lynching of Emmett Till, August 28th, 1955. That deals with from 55 through the signing of the Civil Rights of the Voting Rights Act in August 1965. Okay, it deals with that. The second series of Eyes on the Prize gets even deeper, and it goes from 65 through the assassination of Dr. King in 68, and it deals with the Black Power movement. They also show the Deacons for Defense and Justice in the second series. The first series, they don't show the Deacons for Defense and Justice, and they really don't talk about the armed resistance among the civil rights leaders that took place. Okay, and when around the civil rights among the civil rights activists that took place and the armed resistance. They deal with that in the second series. Somebody may have told them, "Hey, look, you ain't telling the whole story. You need to deal with this. If it had not been for Negroes with guns, there would not have been a civil rights movement." That's why you hear me talk about this book here from Professor Charles E. Cobb Jr., This Nonviolent Stuff That Gets You Killed, How Guns Made the Civil Rights Movement Possible. Because if it had not been for Negroes with guns protecting the civil rights workers, there would not have been a civil rights movement. And Professor James Small told me that himself, and he was there. That's one of my teachers. Professor James Small told me that himself. Okay, how's everybody doing? Okay, we have Linda, Anita in Detroit, Sean, TC. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. I know we're coming up here on the break. 313-778-7600. Y'all pretty quiet tonight. Okay. All right. So let me see here. So the film fudges the timeline of these events. Let's go back to this article from Smithsonian, because I like to put things in chronological order and deal with history. I'm a historian, so I like to deal with things in chronological order. So the film fudges the timeline of these events. Sam Cooke actually recorded the Bob Dylan-inspired song prior to the Sonny Liston Clay fight. That's true. And perhaps overstates the gathering's influence on the quartet's lives. But its broader points about the men's unique place in popular culture, as well as their contrasting examples of Black empowerment, ring true. As John Troutman, a music curator at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, says via email, Cooke, Ali, Brown, and Malcolm X together presented a dynamic range of new possibilities for Black Americans to engage in and reshape the national conversation. All right. So it's a fantastic movie. I encourage people to really study these men, study Malcolm X, and when we study Malcolm X, one of the good at the end of the movie. Now I ain't giving it away because we know Malcolm was assassinated. So hopefully anybody that watches it, when you see Malcolm X, you don't think they're talking about Malcolm 10. This is not like this is not a Shakespeare like Henry VIII. This ain't a Shakespeare play, Malcolm 10 or something like that. But anyway, he's sitting at the table. His house has been firebombed. And it appears like maybe they're at a hotel or something like that. He's sitting at the table. On the table is a manuscript the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. All right. So there's so many pieces of history in this movie. So it's fantastic. I encourage people to check it out, but then go study the real history. Study Sam Cooke. Study Malcolm X. Study the friendship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. The friendship between Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, and Sam Cooke, because they recorded a song together. Hey, the gang's all here. Sam Cooke and Cassius Clay. Hey, the gang's all here. They recorded a song together. All right, and then we know there was a secret friendship also. We talked about during Dr. King Day, that whole week we did shows dealing with Dr. King. There was a secret friendship between Muhammad Ali and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There was a secret friendship between them as well. All right, we're coming up on a break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, stand by, everybody. TC Cook said we're just listening. Okay. All right, stand by. How's everybody doing? Okay, everybody. So here's the information for the online course. As soon as you register, so the online course is $80, regularly $130. We post a link here. As soon as you register, you can start watching previous classes. We're gonna do this class live starting Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. It's going to be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay. And it's 8 sessions. It's about 2 hours each. It's all, once we do it live, it's all archived. So you can go back and watch it over and over again. Okay. Toya said, I wonder what you had planned for February. Yeah. So February is African American History Month. So we're kicking off this class once again. It's visual. So it's going to blow you away. We deal with thousands of years of history. I reference about 50 articles. The books I reference, you don't have to read the books to understand what I'm talking about, but we reference books to expand your understanding of history and for sources. Okay. There's about 50 articles that I reference as well. So it's a fantastic course. All right, let's see here. What are we going to talk about next? Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Sunday, January 24th, 2021, and we are live. So we just talked about One Night in Miami, okay? Later in the week, we're going to talk about MLK FBI, the documentary MLK FBI about Dr. King and the surveillance that the FBI had on him as well. We'll talk about that. And then I still have to watch Ma Rainey. I still haven't. I've been busy. I still haven't watched Ma Rainey. So we talked about it a little bit. There were some articles I shared dealing with Ma Rainey and Chadwick Boseman and dealing with that movie. But as soon as I watch that, we'll talk about that as well, and I'll give you a review of it and break it down. And then also, we got to talk about Miss Salt and Pepper and what they did to Spinderella. Spinderella's not a fella, but a girl DJ, how they did Spinderella wrong. I don't know how we have to talk. We'll do that in another show. It looks like I'm going to have to go watch it because there was a lot of people commenting on my timeline about the Salt and Pepper story, and they didn't like it. So it looks like I'm going to have to go watch that little sorry movie. But they did our girl Spinderella wrong. That's just, I know y'all fell out with her. I know y'all fired her, but come on now. Come on. But anyway, that's a whole nother show. All right. Sherwin said, did her really wrong. Yeah. It's like, come on, wait. This is one of the most iconic DJs, and she's a female DJ. Okay. Rolling out had some articles that we shared about 3 different articles dealing with that in Spinderella's responses and how she was really hurt. She was left out of the production and development of the project. Okay. And somebody commented, she was depicted just a little bit in there, but a lot of the decisions and the production, and she didn't have any say in how she was portrayed in the film also. So, but okay, I would say something, but people may say it's sexist. But anyway, but this is one of the problems I've heard. And I knew entertainers and I knew promoters who promoted groups and things like this, but this is one of the dynamics that you have with, well, you can have with male groups also, the Temptations, David Ruffin, what have you. But this is one of the dynamics you have with girl groups. A lot of times with girl groups, it could be something on a whole nother level. So, not trying to sound sexist, but I'm just saying that's what I've been told by people who have knowledge of girl groups. All right, I want to go to this next story here. We talked about this earlier in the week. This deals with understanding the U.S. Constitution. Okay, now you've heard me talk about almost every show, right? I say read the Constitution. This is my copy of the Declaration of Independence and other great documents of American history, 1775 to 1865. This is about $2. This is from Dover Books. You hear me talk about read the Constitution, right? So there was a story on CBS this morning, and I'm going to go to this clip here. I sent you the article, Jalen. I want to go to this clip here from CBS News. They dealt with a survey dealing with how most Americans don't know what's in the Constitution, a crisis of civic education. Most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution, a crisis of civic education. This is from January 19th, 2021. So this is after the insurrection by a bunch of domestic terrorists on January 6th, 2021. Okay. And these were adults they're talking about don't know what's in the Constitution. We're not talking about fifth graders. We the people have been, quote unquote, we the people have been talking a lot about our founding document, the United States Constitution, a 233-year-old rule book of American life and governance that's especially relevant right now. The inauguration process is on January 20th, is detailed in the 20th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, the inauguration is in the 20th Amendment. The impeachment of a president is described in Article 1 and Article 1, Sections 2 and 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And the 2020 election results were certified by the states and counted by Congress in accordance with Article 2 and the 12th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, 12th Amendment of 1803. But for all its wisdom, the Constitution has a problem. Most Americans don't know what's in it. Now, some people could make the argument that the Constitution is like the Bible. There's a lot of people talk about stuff that's in the Bible that's not even in the Bible. We've talked about this before. So it's like the Constitution. I think people know even less about what's in the Constitution than in the Bible. Republicans and Democrats both say they're protecting the Constitution. Donald Trump referenced the Constitution no fewer than 16 times ahead of the Capitol riots that he inspired in January 6th, urging supporters to fight a supposedly unconstitutional election. Now, Jeffrey Rosen, CBS News constitutional law expert, told CBS this morning, we are living in unprecedented times. We are living in unprecedented times. The Constitution is a 7,500 word blueprint for America, establishing our national government, basic rights, and a process for addressing our problems, at least in theory. Quote, the Constitution provides as many questions and answers, and it provides a forum or a platform for civil dialogue and debate so we can peacefully resolve those questions. The Constitution is the foundation of law in this country. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution clearly tells you that the U.S. Constitution, all the previous treaties and all of the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. Now, there was a study from Alabama.com I'm sorry. There was a study that there was an article from Alabama.com talked about, and it dealt with how 2/3 of Americans, and I'm going to pull this up here, how 2/3 of Americans could not name the three branches of government. Okay. Let me pull this up from AL.com. Okay. So this is from September 19th, 2019. September 19th, 2019. 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of government. 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of government. And there was a study from the Annenberg Public Policy Centers. A recent survey found America may need to go back to civics class. Annenberg Public Policy Center's Civics Knowledge Survey found only 2 in 5 American adults, or 39%, could correctly name the three branches of government. Okay, so almost 2/3 of Americans can't correctly name the three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. That figure was the highest in 5 years, up from 32% in 2018. So in 2018, only 32% of American adults could name the three branches of government. Let's go to this clip here from CBS this morning.
I'm talking about the Constitution, that 233-year-old rule book for American life and governance that is especially relevant right at this moment. Consider this: the inauguration process detailed in the 20th Amendment, the impeachment process that is described in Article 1, Sections 2 and 3, and the 2020 election results were certified by the states and counted by Congress, all of it in accordance with Article 2 and the 12th Amendment. Here's the problem. For all of its wisdom, the Constitution is in trouble for this reason. Most Americans do not know what's in it.
We, the people, have been talking a lot about our founding document, this document. Republicans and Democrats say they're protecting it.
We love the Constitution. We love America.
And President Trump referenced the Constitution no fewer than 16 times ahead of the riot at the Capitol this month, urging supporters to fight a supposedly unconstitutional election.
You're sworn to uphold our Constitution.
We are living in unprecedented times.
Jeffrey Rosen is a CBS News constitutional law expert, the person we turn to for knowledge of our nation's charter. The Constitution is a 7,500-word blueprint for America, establishing our national government, basic rights, and a process for addressing our problems, at least in theory.
The Constitution provides as many questions and answers, and it provides a forum or a platform for civil dialogue and debate so we can peacefully resolve those questions.
Rosen is also president of the National Constitution Center, where web traffic is at an all-time high, which isn't exactly a good thing.
What does it say about us as a country that at this moment in time, so many of us had to go to the National Constitution Center to refresh our memory of the document that undergirds our country?
There's no doubt that we are in a crisis of civic education. The framers knew that the consequences of constitutional ignorance and being guided by passion rather than reason were en masse. Well, we just saw that they were right about that.
Every immigrant to this country has to pass a civics test to become a naturalized citizen. So we borrowed some basic questions from that very exam.
We got some trivia questions. Can we ask you a few?
To get a sense of just how deep a crisis we're in.
How many people are in the House of Representatives?
I don't know. 12?
14?
The House?
No,
no,
not
for the whole country?
80.
We assumed Americans by birth might do at least as well as Americans by choice.
Nope.
But can you name the three branches of government?
Judicial?
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, my husband's going to kill me.
However, the vast majority of people were stumped.
Who is the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court?
So we have 9 of them?
We have 9 of them, and there's a chief.
I don't know. The Chief Justice?
Yeah.
Trump.
The Chief Justice is not Trump. Sometimes their fellow Americans tried to help. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. John Roberts. Yes, there it is. He got it. Well done. But it was clear most people could use a refresher. Who signs a bill into law? It's not officially a law until this person signs it.
Is what do you call his name again? Oh, boy.
Oh, you know this. And many of us haven't read the Constitution in years, if ever.
Ooh, been a minute.
Been a minute, yeah.
Oh, God, probably middle school?
Never.
Never read it.
I'm sure hardly anybody read it.
And sure enough, a 2019 survey found only 4 out of every 10 Americans could pass the citizenship test. That feels like an embarrassment to me.
You could call it a scandal. I call it actually a proxy for a larger set.
Hey, Jalen, pause it right there for a minute. Pause it right there for a minute, man. Just back it up about 30 seconds. Okay, so only 4 out of 10 Americans could pass the citizenship test. I'm trying to tell y'all right now, you people running around want to call other people illegal, you need to check yourself. Okay, I'm trying to tell you, you really don't want to get into a conversation about legal, illegal on land, on stolen land. Okay, and most of y'all can't even pass the citizenship test. I'm just trying to tell you. So you should just really pump your brakes on that one right there. How many members in the House of Representatives? 435. Okay, there are 430, not 12. Okay, there are 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. U.S. House of Representatives representation is based upon the census. The census was created by the Constitution. The census takes place every 10 years. The census not only redistributes $1.5 trillion in resources, but it also determines representation in the House of Representatives. This is why every show you hear me tell all this stuff that's going on ties into law. We talk about states' rights. That's the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Amendments 1 through 10 were not part of the original Constitution. That's part of the Bill of Rights of 1791. I'm trying to tell people because I'm listening to what people are saying, especially these people talking about we want reparations. We want reparations. Then I asked them, explain to me the legislative process to get reparations, because based upon Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress controls the purse strings. So a reparations bill has to pass both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate and has to be signed into law by who? The president. So when they ask the question, a bill does not become law until it's signed into law by this person, it's the president. Now, if a president vetoes a bill, then if there's a 2/3 supermajority in both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, they can override a presidential veto like they just did when the Trader-in-Chief vetoed the National Defense and Authorization Act. And one of the reasons why was because the bill wanted to rename military bases named after traitors to the Union, Confederate soldiers. Okay. And he vetoed the bill, and there was a supermajority in both the House and the Senate, and they overruled the veto and it became law. That's all based upon the Constitution. All right. Okay, let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
However, the vast majority of people were stumped. Who is the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court?
So we have 9 of them?
We have 9 of them, and there's a chief.
I don't know. The Chief Justice?
Yeah.
Trump.
The Chief Justice is not Trump. Sometimes their fellow Americans tried to help. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. John Roberts. Yes, there it is. He got it. Well done. But it was clear most people could use a refresher. Who signs a bill into law? It's not officially a law until this person signs it.
Is what do you call his name again? Oh, boy.
Oh, you know this. And many of us haven't read the Constitution in years, if ever.
Ooh, been a minute.
Been a minute, yeah.
Oh, God, probably middle school?
Never.
Never read it.
I'm sure hardly anybody read it.
And sure enough, a 2019 survey found only 4 out of every 10 Americans could pass the citizenship test. That feels like an embarrassment to me.
You could call it a scandal. I call it actually a proxy for a larger set of problems.
Raj Vinakota runs the nonprofit that conducted that survey. The Institute for Citizens and Scholars aims to reimagine and rebuild the field of civic learning in order to reconnect America to its constitutional roots.
So you need to understand how our government works and elections and so on. But you also need to understand why we set it up that way. And if you don't understand both of those pieces, you are going to be in trouble and you can't actually function effectively in our society.
What worries me the most about constitutional ignorance is the same worry that the framers had, that without constitutional education, the republic will collapse.
And he's not kidding about that. I mean, we were supposed to know this thing. The good news is it is a very slim volume. It is not a big book. This is how thin the Constitution is.
You can also get a little tiny one that you can carry around
You can put it in your pocket. And, but there's a serious point behind this, which is, we did a poll just yesterday that found that a majority of Republicans don't think Joe Biden was legitimately elected and is a legitimate president. Well, the Constitution says otherwise. The process was followed. And if you disagree with that process, there's a constitutional process for changing it 4 years from now. We can't function as a democracy unless we follow the rules in this little book.
I was shocked that President Trump mentioned the Constitution 16 times in that speech. I have to say.
Shouldn't you give the people the correct answers? I know people are watching at home because we were all playing.
You're going to put me on the spot. So that I should.
No, I'm not. I just figure you must have some kind of sheet where the answers are.
Well, so
I know legislative, executive, judicial.
Every question that if people want to test themselves, and I took the test myself, every question is on the civics exam that citizens to the U.S., naturalized citizens take. There's 100 questions.
I would have liked to see you address those same questions to recent immigrants.
They would all get it.
We actually did find one, but she's taken the test 30 years ago and forgotten everything. The only person who got all of the questions that we asked was a CBS This Morning viewer who declined to be named, but we appreciate you, sir, very much. And there was another young woman named Amber Abdul, also very impressive, got all but one. The only one she missed is who is her representative in Congress. That was an easy one. It was a gimme.
No, I'm amazed at how many people can't answer that question.
I know.
I love the John Roberts question to the guy who answered it. He didn't even break his stride. He kept and said John Roberts.
That man knows what's going on.
Yeah, he does.
I thought that was
all right. Read the Constitution this weekend, people.
Okay, so Brenda Lawrence, 14th Congressional District. That's my member of the House of Representatives. Yeah, I can't stress this enough, because if people, the Constitution is the foundational law. Now, some people say, "Oh, the Constitution doesn't apply to us," but you don't say that when you talk about exercising your Second Amendment, a right to bear arms. I mean, I hear some African Americans say the Constitution doesn't apply to us, but you don't say that when you talk about your Second Amendment right to bear arms. You don't say that when you talk about your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, unlawful or freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, things like this. You don't talk about the Constitution doesn't apply to us when you talk about your Fifth Amendment right against incriminating yourself in court, or your Fourth Amendment right against unlawful searches and seizures. So, yeah, what happens is we don't understand how it applies. We don't understand how it applies. So, and then this ties into federal judges. Okay, so because the judicial branch of government interprets law that's written by the legislative branch of government. So when we saw 225 federal judges confirmed under the Trump administration, and a lot of these judges, they're on lists coming from the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation. We'll go to the phone lines in just a second. And then they're being pushed through by Moscow Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate. As we talked about before, this all deals with the fear of the year 2043 and the fear that some white people have that by 2043, white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. And many people fear this. This ties into the browning of America, and they want to control federal law for the next 25, 30, 45 years, what have you, because these federal judges, these nominations that got confirmed, these are lifetime appointments. Well, the judicial branch of government rules on law. They interpret law from the legislative branch of government. So if you can't control the population, okay, you want to focus on controlling the judicial branch of government that interprets the law that's written by the legislative branch of government. This is the long game that they're playing. But if you understand the Constitution, you don't understand any of this. So this is the game that they're playing. Well, who nominates federal judges? The president. Then the Electoral College was created at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787, and most people don't understand. Because like in 2016, I heard people saying, oh, the popular vote doesn't matter. Really? Who told you that? How do you win the Electoral College votes associated with a state? By winning the popular vote in the state. We just saw that here play out with all the lawsuits and trying to overturn the Electoral College votes with Georgia and Pennsylvania and all. We just saw that. And that's tied to the popular votes. So this past election cycle, a lot of people got like a real constitutional law lesson. It's an ongoing lesson because we have an impeachment trial coming up. It's an ongoing lesson. But all this then, once again, ties into the U.S. Constitution. This is why I tell people you have to read it and understand it. Okay, let's go quickly to the phone lines, and then we're gonna go to the clip about Hank Aaron next, Jalen. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to line. Let's see who we have. Line 1, John Ray. John Ray, hey, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, John.
Yes, sir. I'm calling now from Glendale, Arizona, but I am from Pontiac, Michigan.
Oh, okay. You're from Pontiac, Michigan. Okay. In Arizona. All right, go ahead with your question or comment, man. We got a couple of callers, and then we got to get out of here. Go ahead.
Subject up about Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is just saying that he passed quietly in his sleep. But then I did read an anonymous source that says that he died of a massive stroke.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was the anonymous source?
Heard anything of that?
Well, I haven't heard any updates on. I checked yesterday. I haven't heard any updates on cause of death. Now, where'd you read this?
I googled it and it came up on.
But which publication was it? Do you remember which publication it was?
No, sir. I can do it again and probably drop it in the thread. If you don't mind.
Drop it in the thread. Okay. All right, John. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for what you do, man. I wish every student would be forced to listen to you at least once a week.
Okay. All right, man. I appreciate it. Keep listening. We're here 6 days a week. All right. Keep listening. And then check out John's website also, workingwithjohnray.com as well, workingwithjohnray.com. All right, let's see who we have next. We have, I think this is Olaf. Olaf, hey, welcome to the African History Network show. Olaf, thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Thank you, brother. I'm calling from Brightmoor.
Okay.
The community of Brightmoor in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Brother, you know, I watched the movie Night in Miami.
Yeah, One Night in Miami, yeah.
Yeah, I got Amazon Prime and watched it twice. But brother, and I don't mean no disrespect to the movie or anything. The actors were great, man.
Mm-hmm.
The actors were great.
Mm-hmm.
And Regina King, her directory of it was great. You know, but I just it's not real. I know it's fictional, but it's I can't get into it because it's not real. It never happened. And what I'm afraid of is that
well, the meeting took place. They did spend a night. Well, no, the meeting took place. Can you hear me? The meeting took place. Now, a lot of the conversation is fictionalized, but they tell you this up front with the movie. They tell you this up front with the movie. It's a fictionalized account about a real meeting that took place, but it deals with some different dynamics that were taking place at the time. So they don't present this as history. There's some historical circumstances, but they tell you it's a fictionalized account of this meeting that took place.
No, you're right. You're right on that. I get you on that point. But you know, and even I kind of skimmed over that to a certain extent, and I was taking it to heart like it was real, even though I knew it wasn't real. But you know, I was kind of hope that, you know what I'm saying, you know, it could have been real. You know what I'm saying? But now we know for a fact that Malcolm and Muhammad Ali, they did spend time in Miami together.
Right
before Ali fully switched over to the Olive Bowl Elijah Muhammad.
Right. Well, so when he was training for that fight, when Ali was training for that listing fight in February '64, Malcolm X brings his family to Ali's training camp. Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. That did happen.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I know you know that, but otherwise, yeah, that's all I have for you, brother. But it was a great movie, though. Virginia King, man, hey, she put her foot in that movie. I give it to the sister.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She did an excellent job. She did an excellent job.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Ola.
Yes,
Thanks for calling. Yep.
Thank you, brother. Have a good night.
All right, you too. And see, so for instance, like when you read this article from SmithsonianMag.com, okay, name of this article is The True History Behind One Night in Miami. This is why I wanted to make sure we talked about this article to deal with some history and separate fact from fiction. When I had Jamon Jordan on, historian Jamon Jordan, who's a friend of mine, fellow historian, and is an expert on Detroit history. When the movie Harriet came out, we went on this show, we broke down, we were in the studio and we went through and broke down the film Harriet and separated fact from fiction. I'm gonna re-air that because a whole lot of people just trashing the movie and things like this, don't know what they were talking about. But we separated fact from fiction and dealt with the making of a Hollywood movie, okay? But even in this article here from SmithsonianMag.com, The True History Behind One Night in Miami, they show you a picture after Ali wins the championship. This is from February 25th, 1964. Okay. This is and they're out at a restaurant or something, and you see that scene reenacted in the movie. You see Muhammad Ali with his expensive, you see Malcolm X with his expensive camera taking a picture of Ali. Ali has the bow tie on. That's a reenactment of what actually happened, that portion that actually happened. Okay. So you want to go through and research this and separate fact from fiction, and to have these conversations with your children, have these conversations with your friends and family and frat brothers and sorority sisters, etc. Okay. 313. Do we have any more calls? Because we're almost out of time. Okay. Let's go to this clip here dealing with Hank Aaron. So we know hammering Hank Aaron. We got the news he passed away Friday. Now, not only did Hank Aaron pass away Friday, but January 4th, Gregory Sierra passed away. That's Julio from Sanford and Son. So then after Hank Aaron, then we found out Larry King died. So Julio from Sanford and Son, Julio Fuentes, okay, Gregory Sierra, then Hank Aaron, and then also Larry King, okay? But we talked about Hank Aaron on our show Friday and breaking Babe Ruth's record, and Hank Aaron being a civil rights activist also, and getting the death threats and things like this when he was getting close to breaking Hank Aaron's record. Getting close to breaking Babe Ruth's record of 714 home runs. I want to go to this clip here. This is Craig Melvin from the Today Show in early 2020 interviewing Hank Aaron. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Some breaking news in the world of sports. Legendary outfielder Hank Aaron has died. He was 86. Hammerin' Hank slipped away peacefully in his sleep. Hank Aaron was an icon of the game of baseball with a career that spanned 23 years. He famously broke Babe Ruth's record of 714 home runs back in 1974. It was a record that he held for more than 30 years. He retired in 1976 with a career total of 755 home runs. Hank Aaron made his major league debut at the age of 20, and he started his career, like so many others back then, in the Negro Leagues. I had the great honor of interviewing Hank Aaron for the Today Show in early 2020. Hank Aaron is widely considered one of the greatest to ever play the game. But before he donned that famous Braves uniform,
He took the field for the Indianapolis Clowns of the Negro League, leaving his Alabama home in the early 50s.
I remember so well my first year that I left Mobile, Alabama. One little coat, $2.50 in my pocket. And my mother told me that was all she had to give me, and be very careful with it.
What was it like playing for the Indianapolis Clowns?
To play in that league and to play with the ball players that I played with gave me an opportunity to do some things that I wanted to do.
Is it true that there was perhaps more talent in the Negro Leagues back then than there was in Major League Baseball?
I would not doubt it one bit. There was so much talent.
Though thousands of fans came to their games, Negro League players were not treated equally. Roadside restaurants banned blacks in their dining rooms. Gas stations closed restrooms, and white hotels shut their doors. In 1947, Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier. Was there any pressure on guys like you to stay in the Negro League?
Yes, it was. Pressure from the players that you played with was telling you that you can't make it. You'd never make it.
Hank Aaron did make it, debuting for the Milwaukee Braves in 1954. Though he made 25 All-Star teams, Aaron continually faced obstacles white players did not, including death threats while approaching Babe Ruth's career home run record.
I was surprised to read in what should have been the most exciting period of your life, you're chasing Babe Ruth's record. It wasn't.
It was not.
Why not?
I couldn't go out of the ballpark without an escort. I had to stay in another hotel rather than staying in a hotel with my teammates. It was the toughest moment of my life.
Here's the pitch.
And then it happened. And then it happened.
There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
Runs batted in, 2,297. You're first. Extra base hits, 1,477. You're first. Years with 30 or more home runs, 15. Pretty good argument could be made that you're the greatest that's ever played baseball. What do you think?
Well, I'm with you.
At 86 years old, Aaron still serves as a senior vice president of the Atlanta Braves, more concerned with the future of the game than his own legacy. You think it's still America's favorite pastime?
I think it's one of them. I believe football has caught up in some instance. I believe baseball is still number one.
How does Hank Aaron want to be remembered?
I've been fortunate and lucky in some ways. I would just like to be remembered as someone that said God gave him the talent to play this game, and he did everything humanly possible to make the game the way it's supposed to be played.
All right. So rest in peace, Hank Aaron. Okay, we're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, keep watching. We're going to go for a few more minutes. If you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network show, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. Also register for the online course that I'm teaching starting February 3rd, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's at our website as well. You can also email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for more information. Remember, right now, it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes. I want to get to this other story here. There's more developments coming out with Trump trying to pressure the lawmakers in Georgia. Okay. This new scheme, this story broke Friday from the New York Times, and we're going to deal with a brief update in this story here also. We'll talk about Joe Biden's, the additional executive order. You know, we'll talk about it Monday. We can squeeze a little bit of this in right now with this executive order from Joe Biden. The other executive orders we talked about, there was one that came out Friday, that was talked about Friday at the press conference, that Jen Psaki, Jen Psaki held, the new White House press secretary. And I watch the White House press secretary conferences each day. And I can honestly say, you know, the one they held, I think the first one they held was Wednesday after the inauguration. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. That was we share them live on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. That was the first White House press secretary conference I could actually watch in like 2 years without cussing. Seriously. Because all the other way, Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Kelly McEnany, those little lying witches, I couldn't watch. I sat there cussing at the TV. I couldn't watch those. This one here, I mean, you're actually giving facts and telling the truth and taking questions and not arguing with reporters and things like this. I'm like, wow, you're operating like somebody who's competent. Imagine that. So there was an article from theroot.com that I saw, and they picked up this story from Associated Press. Biden orders a review of domestic violent extremism threat. Biden orders review of domestic violent extremism threat. We talked about this in the beginning of the show. This is from January 22nd, 2021. Okay. Friday, January 22nd, 2021. President Joe Biden has directed law enforcement and intelligence officials in his administration to study the threat of domestic violent extremism in the United States, an undertaking being launched weeks after a mob of insurrectionists loyal to Donald Trump, Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol building. And now, the threat assessment is being coordinated by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security, and will be used as a foundation to develop policy, the White House said. Will be used as a foundation to develop policy. The National Security Council will do its own policy review to see how information about the problem can be better shared across the government. Quote, the January 6th assault on the Capitol and the tragic deaths and destruction that occurred underscored what we all know. The rise of domestic violent extremism is a serious and growing national security threat. The rise of domestic violent extremism is a serious and growing national security threat. Jen Psaki said, P-S-A-K-I, but it's pronounced Psaki. Jen Psaki said, adding that the administration will confront the problem with resources and policies, but also, quote, respect for constitutionally protected free speech and political activities, end quote. Now, asked whether new methods were needed, Jen Psaki said, quote, more needs to be done. That's why the president is tasking the national security team to do exactly this review on the second full day in office. There were 30 executive orders in the first 3 days. There were 30 executive orders in the first 3 days. We talked about the one, there was one that dealt with racial justice and underserved populations. We talked about that, and that's at, people check this out. Go to whitehouse.gov. Okay, go to whitehouse.gov, because at whitehouse.gov, that's where you can read all of the executive orders. That's where they house the executive orders. Okay, whitehouse.gov, the official website of the White House. So you can read all of them there. And we talked about a number of them Wednesday through Friday. And we also talked about this one. This came out January 20th, 2021. Executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. All right. And in this one, this ties into the study dealing with how the U.S. has lost $16 trillion in 20 years due to racism. That ties right into this. They took some from that study, put it right in here when they talk about the $5 trillion. For example, an analysis shows that closing racial gaps in wages, housing credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in gross domestic product in the American economy over the next 5 years. Now, in Joe Biden's inauguration address, he talked about confronting white supremacy and racism. That's what this executive order ties into. This portion right here comes from that study from Citigroup or Citibank that we talked about back in September of 2020 that deals with how the U.S. government, how the U.S. economy has lost $16 trillion in over the past 20 years due to racism. Okay, how the U.S. economy has lost $16 trillion over the past 20 years due to racism. And there was we talked about the article from CBS News that dealt with this from Citigroup. Yeah, from Citigroup. And check out this article also here. Go research this. But all this ties together. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Okay? Racism has nothing to do with not liking people or calling people racial epithets. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. So I have a whole presentation I've done dealing with this. We air it throughout the week on our social media platforms. But when we look at this study here, the study released by Citigroup is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. Okay, Citigroup arrived at its $16 trillion figure after estimating that African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades, from the year 2000 to the year 2020, because they could not get a college degree. African American workers have lost $113 billion in potential wages because they could not get a college degree over the past 2 decades. The housing market has lost $218 billion in sales because African American applicants could not get home loans, and about $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the U.S. economy because African American entrepreneurs could not access bank loans. So and then we go and see what's more, the U.S. could have $5 trillion in gross domestic product over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, the study indicated. In Biden's executive order, they're referencing this study. As soon as I read it, I automatically knew where the information came from because I already dealt with this study. That's what he deals with in his executive order. So once again, go read, because I hear a whole lot of people running their mouths on social media, but very few people are showing you this. Go read this. WhiteHouse.gov, official website of the White House. You can read all the executive orders there. Executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Okay. And what this deals with is reviewing these policies from these various departments of the federal government that contribute to the racial wealth gap. Equal opportunity is the bedrock to entrenched disparities in our laws and public policies, and in our public and private institutions have often denied that equal opportunity to individuals and communities. Our country faces conversion, but our nation deserves. It is therefore the policy of my administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality, persistent poverty and inequality, affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole government, etc., because advancing equity requires a systemic approach to embedding fairness in decision-making processes. Let me turn this on. Okay. Underserved populations, marginalized, adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality, affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of our government, because advancing equity requires a systematic approach to embedding fairness in decision-making processes. Executive departments and agencies must recognize and work to redress inequities in their policies and programs that serve as barriers to equal opportunity. Okay, so read the entire executive order, but check this out here. You just go to whitehouse.gov and search for it. Just Google it, or just search for it at whitehouse.gov. All right. And you can read all the executive orders there. Okay. Let's continue here. And then read this article here from CBSNews.com here dealing with the racism that's cost the U.S. 16 trillion, Citigroup says. Citigroup finds. Now that's 16 trillion over just 20 years, from the year 2000 to the year 2020. I think we have this clip here from the press conference here that Jen Psaki did.
And destruction that the January 6th assault on the Capitol and the tragic deaths and destruction that occurred underscored what we have long known. The rise of domestic violent extremism is a serious and growing national security threat. The Biden administration will confront this threat with the necessary resources and resolve. We are committed to developing policies and strategies based on facts, on objective and rigorous analysis, and on our respect for constitutionally protected free speech and political activities. Our initial work on DVE will broadly fall into three areas. The first is a tasking from President Biden sent to the ODNI today, requesting a comprehensive threat assessment coordinated with the FBI and DHS on domestic violent extremism. This assessment will draw on the analysis from across the government and, as appropriate, non-governmental organizations. The key point here is that we want fact-based analysis upon which we can shape policy. So this is really the first step in the process.
Okay, so they're largely talking about white domestic terrorism. This is what that boils down to. Lastly, I want to go to this last topic here. So on Friday's show, we dealt with a breaking news story from the New York Times that dealt with how Donald Trump had hatched a plan to stay in power, and it involved pushing out his acting attorney general and installing someone else, and then trying to pressure state lawmakers in the state of Georgia to overturn election results. New York Times had this breaking news story. Washington Post had reporting that backed it up. NBC News has subsequently verified the reporting also. But if we look at this article here from New York Times, this is from Friday, January 22nd. We talked about this on Friday's show. Trump and Justice Department lawyer said to have plotted to oust acting attorney general. Trump and Justice Department lawyer said to have plotted to oust acting attorney general, trying to find another avenue to push his baseless election claims. Donald Trump considered installing a loyalist. Okay, so this is by Katie Benner and she was interviewed by Chris Hayes on All In with Chris Hayes. So on our Friday show, we shared the interview that Chris Hayes did with Katie Benner, who broke this story. The Justice Department's top lawyers listened in stunned silence this month. One of their peers, one of their peers, they were told had devised a plan with Donald Trump to oust Jeffrey A. Rosen, acting attorney general. And wield the department's power to force Georgia state lawmakers to overturn its presidential election results. So they were going to force, now they didn't have legal authority to do this, but they were going to try to force Georgia state lawmakers to overturn the election results. The unassuming lawyer who worked on the plan, Jeffrey Clark, had been devising ways to cast doubt on the election results and to bolster Donald Trump's continuing legal battles and the pressure on Georgia politicians, because acting Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen had refused the president's entreaties to carry out those plans. Donald Trump was about to decide whether to fire acting Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen and replace him with Jeffrey Clark. The department officials convened on a conference call, then asked each other, what will we do if Mr. Rosen is dismissed? Their answer was unanimous. They would resign. There was going to be a mass resignation in the Justice Department. Their informal pact ultimately helped persuade Donald Trump to keep acting Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen in place, calculating that a furor over mass resignations and at the top of the Justice Department would eclipse any attention on Trump's baseless accusations of voter fraud. Trump's decision came only after acting Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen and Jeffrey Clark made their competing cases to him in a bizarre White House meeting that two officials compared with an episode of Mr. Trump's reality TV show, The Apprentice, albeit one that could prompt a constitutional crisis. Once again, tying into the U.S. Constitution, that most Americans don't know what's in the Constitution. The previously unknown chapter was the culmination of Trump's long-running effort to batter the Justice Department into advancing his personal agenda. He also pressed Jeffrey A. Rosen, acting Attorney General, to appoint special counsels, including one who would look into Dominion voting systems, a maker of election equipment that Donald Trump's allies had falsely said was working with Venezuela to flip votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. This account of the final days under Trump's leadership is based on interviews with 4 former Trump administration officials who asked not to be named because of fear of retaliation. Okay. Now, I want to go to this clip, read the rest of this article here from New York Times. Trump and Justice Department lawyers said to have plotted to oust acting Attorney General. Now, this is going to come up in the impeachment trial, because day after day after day, more evidence comes out, more information come out, and none of it is positive for Trump. More information comes out and what he was doing behind the scenes to try to stay in power, and none of it is positive for him. Okay. Now, I want to go to this clip here. This is from MSNBC. This is from The Last Word. Let me go to this clip here to see. Report: Trump plotted to replace acting Attorney General in effort to overturn election results. Let's go to this clip.
Three things.
What do you see in this report from Katie Benner?
Three things. First, the law. Second, the facts. And third, remaining investigation. So on the law, I'm going to read to you what the Department of Justice defines election fraud to be. Election fraud is conduct intended to corrupt the process by which ballots are tabulated or election results are certified. So look at the reporting from Katie today and put it in context. You have the president pressuring the Georgia Secretary of State. You now have evidence that the president pressured people at the Department of Justice to pressure Georgia and to open up a fake investigation. You have pressure on the vice president not to certify the results. You have the inciting of a rebellion on January 6th. And then put this in context, Lawrence, of you're saying this sounds like the president just wants an open investigation. Well, that certainly sounds like exactly what we heard about a year ago in the first impeachment of the president in his so-called perfect Ukraine call, which was election interference because it was to have a fake investigation into Joe Biden. So that is all a series of facts that help prove election fraud. And the investigation piece is it's really important now for people to look at other sources of evidence, to talk to Barr, to Assistant Attorney General Rabbit, who also resigned, the Attorney General in Georgia, in other states. You really want to find out who else was pressured by this president. It's not that you need more evidence, but I think at this point, it's pretty clear that more evidence is going to come out.
Michael Moore, you were here when we had that very, very surprising and sudden, mysterious resignation by a U.S. attorney in Georgia. You didn't believe on its face that this was just needed to spend more time with the family. Turns out this. I reread Georgia's statute tonight on voter fraud and solicitation of voter fraud. It seems to me like the Georgia statute is violated in the evidence we're reading in the New York Times.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that there's a problem with the violation of the Georgia statute. I mean, it's pretty clear here that there's been an effort to solicit somebody to commit voter fraud. I think it also puts the meat on the bones of why the U.S. attorney in Atlanta resigned. And I felt like all along that he was likely asked to do something that he didn't think was appropriate. And that's what it looks to be now. And I'm not, the administration is gone. We're dealing with actings now. But, this is sort of the classic example. While the last bird may be gone, you just can't get the stink out of the chicken house. And that's really what's going on here, is that we're sort of seeing the remnants of the Trump administration, the efforts that he's used in the Department of Justice to act as his own personal attorney. I think it's pretty clear that you had a rogue DOJ official who took it on himself to try to counsel the president as an individual as opposed to the institution, try to counsel the campaign essentially on what to file. This was not an effort to come in and investigate a case. It was to use a statement which has a huge impact. If you use a statement from the Department of Justice that there's an investigation, that there's an inquiry, that there's a concern, that has a ripple effect that goes on, and it would have buttressed, I think, the arguments that you were hearing from sort of the lunatic fringe of some of the Georgia delegation about, whether or not the vote should be certified. And so it strikes me as fairly clear that the U.S. attorney was just not going to play ball with the president on this.
Okay. So that is from MSNBC. Check out that clip. That is from The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell from Friday, January 22nd, 2021. Report: Trump plotted to replace acting attorney general in effort to overturn election results. In that clip, you heard Andrew Weissman and Michael J. Moore talk about these new developments. Okay, so we're going to post the link here. You can check out that clip, read the article from New York Times. Also, there's one from Washington Post and NBC News. All the news outlets are covering this story. So more and more information is coming out every day. So the impeachment trial should be really exciting because we have no idea what type of evidence would have surfaced by then, by the week of February 8th. We have no idea what type of information would have surfaced by then. Okay, and then so also birthday acknowledgments, Kenya Moore, Detroit's own Kenya Moore. She turns 50 today, February 24th. She turns 50, graduated from Cass Tech, 1989. Born January 24th, 1971. She's an actress, model, producer, author, television personality. We know she's on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. She was on Celebrity Apprentice. She's been on a number of TV shows, Steve Harvey Show. She was in the movie Deliver Us from Eva, etc. Also celebrating a birthday today is actor William Allen Young. William Allen Young, who was the father on Moesha. Okay, William Allen Young, he turns 67, born January 24th, 1954. Then Aaron Neville, singer Aaron Neville, he turns 80 today, born January 24th, 1941. R&B and soul vocalist and musician. He has had 4 platinum albums and 4 top 10 hits in the U.S., including 3 that went to #1 in Billboard's Adult Contemporary chart. His debut single from 1966 was #1 on the Soul chart for 5 weeks. He has also recorded with his brothers Art, Charles, and Cyril as the Neville Brothers, and is the father of singer, keyboards player Ivan Neville. Okay, so happy birthday to Aaron Neville as well. And then January 23rd, Saturday, January 23rd, was the 73rd birth date for Anita Pointer of the Pointer Sisters. Anita Pointer, I've got a new attitude. Well, not this Patti LaBelle. Neutron Dance, and from Beverly Hills Cop, Neutron Dance, the Pointer Sisters, Slow Hand. I remember the Pointer Sisters. They were bad. So Anita Pointer turned 73. She's part of R&B soul singer songwriter, best known as a founding member of the Grammy Award-winning vocal group the Pointer Sisters. She and her sisters found fame in 1973 when the group led by Anita Pointer sung the song "Yes We Can," when that reached number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100s. Yes We Can. In 1974, Anita's writing talents helped the group make music history when Fairy Tale became a hit on the country music charts and enabled the Pointer Sisters to become the first Black female group to perform at the Grand Ole Opry. Now, Fairy Tale, their song Fairy Tale won the group its first Grammy Award for Best Country Performance by a duo or group, and a Grammy nomination for the Best Country Song of the Year in 1975. Now, in the late 1970s and early 80s, the Pointer Sisters rose to higher levels of success with their song Fire from 1978. I remember that, Fire from 1978. And I think, didn't Bruce Springsteen record Fire also? I think Bruce Springsteen did that as well. And then I remember He's So Shy, 1980. Okay. He's So Shy. Slow Hand, 1981. I Want a Man with a Slow Hand. Not a slow brain, but a slow hand. That's what they want. Okay. And I'm so excited. Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. 1982. All right. So this information comes from the R&B, the National R&B Music Society, Inc. National R&B Music Society, Inc. Let me see here. Pointer Sisters. Let me see. There's a tweet from the Pointer Sisters. Let me see. Well, funny that Bruce Springsteen wrote Fire and we recorded it this week. Our songs. Okay. So let me see. Who wrote that song? Fire by the Pointer Sisters. Let's look at song facts. Bruce Springsteen wrote this. Okay. The Smoldering Song was written by Bruce Springsteen, who at the time was embroiled in litigation with his former manager, which kept him from recording his own song. His friend Robert Gordon was the first to record it, releasing it on his 1978 album Fresh Fish Special. The song became a hit when the Pointer Sisters recorded it later in 1978 at the suggestion of their producer Richard Perry, their version hitting number 2 in the US. Bruce Springsteen wrote this for Elvis Presley, his idol growing up. He sent Elvis a demo of it in the song Fire in 1977, but Elvis Presley died soon after. The song would have fit well for Elvis Presley as it's about a passionate lust a couple has for each other. Bruce Springsteen sometimes writes from the perspective of a man burning with desire, which can come off a bit predatory. In this song, Fire, the girl is saying no, but he's not accepting that answer because her kiss tells a different story. When sung from the girl's point of view, these concerns are allayed. The Pointer Sisters make it clear they are welcoming these advances. Okay, lyrics from the song say lyrics from the song says my words say split, but my words they lie. Because when we kiss, ooh, fire. Okay. That could be a little confusing to a brother, but you know, whatever. You may catch a case on it, you know. It sounds yeah, but a white man wrote it, so okay. While many people who heard this song knew it had hit potential, Bruce Springsteen did not release it until 1986, as he was more concerned with the continuity of his albums than making hit records. Bruce Springsteen's version was included on his boxed set Live 1975 to 1985. It was released as a single when the box set came out, reaching number 46 in the US. All right. So check out the rest of this. This is from songfacts.com about Fire by the Pointer Sisters, written by Bruce Springsteen. Okay. And because I remember Bruce Springsteen sung the song, and I remember the Pointer Sisters, but I don't think I remember Bruce. I don't think I knew that Bruce Springsteen actually wrote that song. All right. So this is why history is important. Okay, so Anita Pointer, January 23rd, 1948. Happy birthday, Anita Pointer. Then we know, then also, okay, so Gregory Sierra passed away. It's Julio Fuentes from Sanford and Son. We also remember he was on Miami Vice as well, right? Remember him on Miami Vice? And then NBC News has an article about this. A lot of these people passing away. And I see Sanford and Son, you know, every day. Oh, well, not every day, almost every day, every week. See, I mean, I had the whole box set, 122 episodes, you know, on DVD, okay? Actor Gregory Sierra of Barney Miller and Sanford and Son dies at age 83. Actor Edward James almost tweeted that people who knew Sierra admired his laughter, kindness, wit, and extraordinary artistic ability. Now, he passed away. I first saw an article from Hollywood Reporter. I posted this on my Instagram page. He passed away January 4th, but we found out January 22nd. His wife, Helene Taber, helped to break the news. Gregory Sierra, best known for his roles as Sergeant Miguel Chano Amangwale on the ABC police TV series Barney Miller. It was a sitcom, Barney Miller. And Julio Fuentes on the NBC sitcom Sanford and Son has passed away at age 83. He passed away on January 4th in Laguna Woods, California, after battling cancer, his wife, Helene Tauber, said. And Gregory Sierra, who is of Puerto Rican descent, was born and raised in New York. All right. He was on, I remember him on Miami Vice also. Lieutenant Rodriguez on Miami Vice. He was a lieutenant, if I remember correctly, before Edward James almost became the lieutenant. All right, so check this out here from NBC News also. All right. All right, look, hey, we have to get out of here. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. Oh, also, we have the 8 DVD bundle pack, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. It's how you doing, Marnice? All right. The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, the 8 DVD bundle pack. It includes a lot of my lectures. It includes a double lecture that I did with Dr. David M. Hotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. The First Americans Were Africans Who Documented Evidence. And if you remember on our first show, our October 12th show, 2020, which kicked off, that was Monday, October 12th. It was actually Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, former colonizers day. My first guest was Dr. David M. Hotep. Okay. And I got to give him a call because I need to check on him, see when his new book is coming out. But so we did a double lecture and dealing with his book and dealing with ancient African presence in the Americas. I also did a double lecture with Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, who's in the Hidden Colors documentaries. We did one dealing with the Mississippi Valley and ancient Africans in America, etc. It includes a presentation I did. It includes some of my lectures, but also one from Dr. John Henry Clark dealing with Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. One I did with Christopher Columbus, and then also one from Dr. Ivan Van Sertima dealing with They Came Before Columbus. Okay, so this is The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. That's on sale. I think that's $50 as an 8 DVD bundle pack at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We posted the link here. Then also remember to register for the online course that I'm teaching. It's starting February 3rd. Okay, it's starting February 3rd, 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be live. As soon as you register, there's hours of bonus content that you can start watching. Okay, so it's $80, regularly $130. And we'll post a link here again. If you have any questions, you can email me at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So it's not vulgar. I don't do a lot of cursing. You can use this for like your children. I would say it's PG-13 because we deal with the transatlantic slave trade. So we have to deal with some things that are unpleasant, but I don't make this like graphic. I'm not trying to just, I'm not trying to win like a pity Olympics or something. Some people just want to deal with the most horrific graphic things, trying to win some type of, I don't know, well, I don't do that. We deal with the real history. We deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. We deal with the ancient Egypt and historical events that lead to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay, and when we deal with the transatlantic slave trade, we can't start talking about it in 1619. We can't start talking about it in 1555. We can't start in 1526 with Spanish taking Africans into the territory we today call South Carolina. We can't even start with 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. You have to deal with hundreds of years of history that lead up to this happening. The fall of the western portion of the Roman Empire invaded by the Vandals and the Visigoths, 476 AD. You got to deal with what the Africans known as the Moors take into Europe. They're taking the knowledge from the Nile Valley region of Africa, from ancient Kemet and Nubia, Ta-Nehesi, things like this. And they're taking this knowledge into Europe, and this brings Europe out of the Dark Ages, what we call alchemy, which today we call chemistry, the periodic tables, the science, the mathematics, the musical instruments, the foods, the weaponry, the swords, and understanding metallurgy. All of this, the Moors taken to Europe, the soap and the alcohol language, the Arabic language, the architecture, the words that are put into European languages, and then also the impact that the Africans known as the Moors have on the European bloodline and changing the complexion of Europeans, because they're intermixing into the European population to various extents, depending upon the country and the period of time. Okay, so we deal with all this in this 16-hour. It's broken up into 8 sections, so we meet every Wednesday. Okay, if you miss any of it, it's all archived. You can go back and watch it over and over again. You can watch from around the world as well. Okay, so you don't have to worry about receiving DVDs or anything like that in the mail. You can watch from around the world. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, right? In the Dark Ages. So we deal with the bubonic plague hitting in 1347 AD, wiping out 1/3 to 1/4 of the U.S. population. But the Dark Ages, Europe was in a period of time of ignorance. And then in this, it's going to be the teachings from these Africans that bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. And then the next period is the Renaissance period. The Renaissance period, the period of light, enlightenment. Historically, darkness was associated with ignorance and light was associated with knowledge. That ties into ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. We deal with all that in the class, okay? All right, we have to get out of here right now. It's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I gotta be back tomorrow. Damn. Okay. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.